Oh, mate.
Right, hello and welcome to the third episode of Are You Not Entertained? A bit more positive coming into this one as well. The season's finished, it's all done, but don't worry, boys, because give it about a month and it'll be back. So, no problem at all. Did you see that it starts on the 12th of September, I think? I think I read that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's mad.
Turnaround.
It might be earlier for us because the Europa League as well. Depends what happens with Arsenal.
This is it. I wonder as well if it's a bit of a bad thing for us as a club because we don't have as long of a pre-season. We're not going to be able to possibly do as much work in the market. I wonder if it's going to be a bit of a nightmare situation for Jose because he would want loads of time, ideally, to really implement his style. But we'll see. But anyway, we haven't spoken since the Leicester win, which was fantastic. 3-0 win. I mean, some people were moaning about possession and us not having much of the ball. Didn't really control the game. A lot of people said, but in my opinion, we did control it because we just said, well, we're 3-0 up. We've already won. They looked like a bit of a wounded animal, to be honest. And we just kind of cruised to victory, if you will. And then the last game was Palace, which I personally didn't think there was too much to take from, apart from Jose will get the job done, and that's what you're going to have to get used to. Ollie, what did you take from the last two games of the season?
I think you're pretty spot on, mate. It was the Leicester game was a really nice counter-attacking display at the start. It was nice to see. And then, exactly like I said, Mourinho has a way of controlling the game without controlling the ball, which is fine. So, but that's something we're not used to. Obviously, we've had Pochettino where it's 50-60% possession every game, near enough. Whereas now we're seeing 25, 30, 35. It's a very low amount of possession, but we're getting the results still. So we've had this debate before as if, is this the future or is this just a stopgap? I personally think it's more a stopgap, but time will tell. And in regards to the Palace game as well, it's just, I stopped watching halfway through, I think. It was just one of those games, like I was on my phone, I think, more than actually watching the game. It was, once we knew that Wolves were losing 2-0, I think, there was a bit where Mourinho was about to bring on Dele Alli, I think it was. And we realised the result and then sent him back down again and sent someone else on. I can't remember what it was, but it was quite funny. Like, it was quite obvious that he knew the result and he didn't go attacking, he just went to sharp shot, which is, that's the Jose way, isn't it?
Yeah.
That is the Jose style. Pete, what did you take from it?
I thought it was a good, like you said, a wounded animal with Leicester. I thought it was a nice time to play them because since lockdown's gone, they've been poor. That doesn't take anything away from the performance, but it was a nice time to play them. Palace was what it was. I don't really want to dwell on it for too long. It was a nothing game in that. The goal we conceded, though, however, was diabolical. I've seen a clip since. I didn't really notice it at the time of Sissoko and Dyer's jump at the back post, and it's embarrassing from both of them. It's not even like a jump to try and put someone off where you nudge them. They just sort of pop up and pop down, and it's just, yeah. I think season's done. We'll probably talk about it a bit more in another pod, but that's not what we have planned for today.
No, you're right. So the main part of the pod, this is what we're going for, the player review. Could be quite sad for guys. And I personally, I don't know about you boys, but I found it quite hard when doing my ratings to separate. It's not 2 seasons. So to not think, since the restart, but to also think about before. So like some players, I was going to give them a high rating and then going, oh no, actually, but what about all the wrong you did? Like last 7 or 8 games and vice versa, actually, for some players as well. So
yeah, I found it really hard personally to think back before lockdown and try and remember what people had been like before then. It was really difficult.
It's like
it's hard to think before Mourinho.
Yeah, hard to think before Mourinho. Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
especially because it makes you sad if you remember. Yeah.
Oh dear. Should we start then?
It was just like noughts across the board before Mourinho.
Yeah.
So we're kind of going through. We'll go through position-wise, I think. So start with Lloris. Personally, I gave him a 6. It was a bit of a. I like I said, I found it hard to remember, but I seem to remember him before lockdown being terrible. He had that really bad injury that was his own fault, just not catching the ball. I think it was against Brighton. But yeah, I just gave him a 6. He was average, I thought, this year.
Do you want to go, Ollie?
It's interesting. I'll give Lloris an 8.
Wow.
So I think before Mourinho, he was just a 6, and he was injured as well, didn't he? I appreciate the help. But since he's come in and since he's been fit, I think he's been phenomenal. I think he's been one of our best players in Mourinho, personally. He's just commanded, like, his leadership's been awesome. He's commanding the ball. Like, he's just been asked to stop goals, which is what he has to do. He's not been asked to piss around and play with it like he was on the Pochettino, and what caused him lots of mistakes. But
Yeah.
certainly post-lockdown, he's been absolutely phenomenal. He saved us in countless times. So for that, I gave him an 8.
It's actually perfect, boys, because I give him a 7. And
it's our perfect. Pete's grumpy, Ollie's lovely, and Jerry's in the middle.
And it is actually ideal because what I sort of wrote for him was kind of a combination of what the two of you just said. I thought since lockdown, he's been tremendous. And if he was doing it just since we've come back from COVID stopping the season, I think he'd probably be my player of the season. But if he played like that for the whole of the campaign. But I seem to remember a few mistakes. You can't forget how many goals we conceded, especially before Mourinho came in. But I do think, like Ollie says, he actually really suits Mourinho because it is just keeping the concentration going all the time and not having to use your feet. There's a few players that I'm surprised that he doesn't love Sanchez more. Seemingly Dyer's his favourite boy, but I thought he might love Sanchez more because it's like, well, I don't need to be a player around a bit too much. I just need to be a super defender. But yeah, with Lloris, I went for a 7. So I think we'll give him a 7 because that's right.
Yeah, I'm happy to go down the middle. That's fine. Gazzaniga, quickly. We don't need to spend too much time on him. Again, I went 6. I thought he was when he played. He's a weird one, Gazzaniga, because he's got a good build, but he makes saves look difficult, I think, sometimes. His arms, his reaction time seems really slow, right? So he makes the save, but it just seems slow. So yeah, I went 6. Same as Lloris.
That's harsh. In comparison, that's not even fair, is it? So I gave Gazzaniga a 6 as well. He didn't do too much. He was okay when he replaced Lloris. He did what he's asked to do, which is a 6.
Yeah. Mine's a 6 as well. I think it perfectly describes him as a goalie. I think he doesn't really make too many mistakes. He is okay, but is he ever going to be our number one? I wouldn't think so.
No.
I think Gazza perfect as a 6.
Right, fullbacks. This is where it gets interesting. Davis. I'd give him a 7. In that, I just think he's solid. I know going forward he doesn't give us a lot, but under Mourinho he's not asked to do that, and I just think he is solid. He can be clumsy at times, I think, but Mourinho has always had, well, from what I remember, seems to have a fullback that sits and a fullback that goes. So like at Chelsea, he had Ivanovic would sit, and then left side maybe might be an Ashley Cole or someone else would have gone.
I think he went a few different left backs in Ivanovic's period. Yeah.
And then Davis is the one that sits with your 2 centre halves for him. I just think he's been solid. Again, he's not outstanding, but just solid. So I give him a 7. Ollie?
I also gave him a 7 for the exact same reasons. I actually think he is the better attacking player than Aurier personally, but Aurier can't defend. He has to be left to do his own thing. Whereas I think as a left back, Davies is by far the better player. I think he can attack better. I think he defend better. I think he's just better all around than Aurier. But because we haven't got another right back, he has to play how Mourinho played him, which is better play, and he's done a good job. So can't fault him really for that. He doesn't really make mistakes. I think Mourinho will love that consistency with him.
Yeah, yes. I think Davis's steady Eddie, safe nature, and then having Aurier as your right back has made a lot of people appreciate Davis a lot more. You've got a player who's as much as a maverick as Serge, and you just cannot contain him, and you're begging for him to have some self-control. And then you look at Davis, who has nothing but self-control, who is the calmest man on the planet. You do appreciate.
Like complete opposites.
Yeah, exactly. But I also went for a 7, and it was for all the same reasons. Just think he does his job, and his job is to be a stay-at-home left back, which is what Jose loves. And he who better to do that than Ben Davies? He's pretty much spot on for it. I also agree really that I think he's got a better pass in him, a better delivery, but he doesn't really get to do it when he does get up there. I think he usually finds his mark compared to Serge, who maybe 1 out of 10 crosses might be a worldie. Yeah,
I think was it a few years ago? Sorry, Jez, just about Davies. When Rose got injured that season, I think was it the Leicester season or the Chelsea season, whichever one it was, when they won the league. And he came in and he was just unbelievable. Like, he was attacking wise, he was contributing more than Rose did at the time. So I think he's massively underappreciated. But yeah.
Right, that takes us over to Mr. Serge Aurier. Now,
careful.
Looking at my other ratings, I think I've gone a little bit high on Serge, but I've rated him on himself rather than on a good right back. So he is a terrible right back. There is no two ways about it in my mind. He can't defend, like Ollie says, and when he bombs on, he doesn't produce enough at the other end. So if he was a good right back, he wouldn't get the 6 that I've given him. But I've given him a 6 for Serge Aurier because I think he's not had a terrible season in terms of him as many mistakes, as many penalties given away. He's not been too bad. And I also don't blame him half the time because he's the only option. He is a man playing in a team where he goes, whatever I do, I play every week. It doesn't matter because there's no one here to challenge me. So, yeah, I've given Serge Aurier a Serge Aurier 6.
I've also given him a 6, but I would say if we were rating him as on the Serge Aurier scale, I'd probably give him an 8 on that scale because I think he's been really good for his standards. However, for the needs of an actual right back, I've given him a 6 because he's Serge Aurier. I don't need to say anything more than that, really. But to be fair to him, I think he's got about 8 assists, 6, 7 assists, something like that. He's done fairly well on the attacking front, but when your job is just to attack, you could expect it more. Defensively, I think you're right. I can't think of any penalties he's given away. Probably wrong. Red cards, I don't think any either. So for him, that's an 8, but for a normal right back, I'd say a 6.
Cheers.
I'll give him a 5. Sorry, Serge. But I mean, I just think you can't give me another player, and maybe it's like you say, because he's always in the side, doesn't have anyone to sort of drop him and come in. You just can't give me anyone else who's made as many mistakes, who's given away as many goals. I'm pretty sure he did give away a couple of pens early on in the season. I think at least one in the Champs he gave away. But I just find him frustrating. So whenever I watch him, I don't want to watch one of my defenders waiting for that mistake to happen. It's not good for my. It's not good for my mental health. It's not good for my blood pressure. And if I'm honest, I wouldn't mind him still being there next season as a backup. But if we don't have someone to take over the season, then throw in the towel because I just can't see it. And maybe part of the problem is that Mourinho allowed him to be this right wing forward for so long. But I think also Mourinho saying, "Christ, I can't have this guy in my box." So it's also down to Lee. He had this right back, and that was the only right back he had. That he had to go, what am I going to do with this guy? So I gave him a 5. And I actually could have gone a bit lower, but I think I have a bit of a bugbear against him anyway. But respect for him for what he's done this season anyway. But I'll give him a 5.
Right, on to the centre half.
The most frustrating, sorry, Pete. Frustrating about Aurier, he's got all the attributes to be an excellent right back. He's quick, he's strong, he can jump, he can run for days. He just can't play football.
I remember when we signed him, and I remember thinking,
we were buzzing, weren't we?
You could be a real good replacement for Walker because you're quick, you're strong, like you say, you win stuff in the air, but you're just a terrible footballer. So there we go. Yeah. Right, centre halves in.
Also, fair play to him for.
For God's sake, Ollie, I want to do the centre halves.
Fair play to him for carrying on playing. Our family's brother.
That's credit.
Oh yeah, that's a massive shout out to him for that. Yeah, that was madness. He, like Jez said at the time, I don't know if I could do anything, let alone think about playing football if that happened.
Yeah.
So, can I go on to centre halves now, Ollie?
I have no more thoughts on Serge Aurier. Pete, you may carry on.
Right, I'm going to start then with the big one that's obviously topical, and that is Jan Vertonghen.
Oh.
I found this really difficult because this year he's not been good. He's looked like his legs are gone. and it's a real crying shame because up until this year, he's been phenomenal. And for me, I'd rate him just above Toby. I know not many people do, but I just always thought he was just a little bit better. I thought he was class. I've given him a 6, and I probably could have gone lower, but I think his legacy made me bump him up a bit, because he just was so good. I don't know if it's because he's left-footed as well. I don't know if that's more aesthetically pleasing. It just gave you such a good balance of having a right foot and a left foot centre half. And you see it all the time now because we're obviously playing 2 right-footed centre halves, and the one on the left finds it a little bit trickier. But yeah, I gave him a 6 in the end. But a massive, massive shout out to him because what a player, what a servant. You know, he's up there with the Ledley Kings for me in the players that I've seen play for Spurs at centre half. So yeah, 6 for me, but I think his legacy might have bumped him up a bit. Ols?
I'm exactly the same as Pete. I wanted to give him a 5 because he's not been very good, but I had to give him a 6 because it's his final season. He's been awesome. He's an absolute player for us. And the early Vertonghen, when he's rampaging, runs from left centre back and whatnot, and the games against Dortmund, all that amazing stuff he's done for us, that buys him an extra point. So he gets a respectable 6 for this season.
I gave him a 3.
Wow. Wow.
And believe me, I absolutely adore Jan. In my opinion, and even watching Ledley, but in my opinion, for longevity and how long he's been the side, 8 years, watched us go from pathetic training ground, a pathetic side, really, almost oversaw that as the gatekeeper and took us all the way to a position where we were in a Champions League final. I think he's the best centre-back we've ever had, in my opinion. Maybe Ledley was a more talented player, but I have Jan down as the best because of how long I watched him and what he did. And also, I agree, Pete, like him being left-footed did make it a bit more enjoyable. I think that was nice to see him in the Belgian barrier, him and Toby. So if I was ranking his tenure at Tottenham, then I'll probably give him a 9 or a 10 because I absolutely adore him. I think he's a fabulous footballer and should have been in the player of the season. I mean, not player of the season, but in the team of the season a fair few times more than I think he actually got. But I gave him 3 because if you're comparing this Jan Vertonghen that I watched this season to the Jan Vertonghen I watched last or the season before, then it's nowhere near, and it would have taken a 3 for me to have given up on him. If he'd have been a 6, then I wouldn't have given up on him. I'd have still wanted him back next season. I'd have wanted him back for 2 years, and I'd have been fuming with the club. But instead, I'm content with him going, and that can only be because I think he was in diabolical. And you see him cry when he comes to the pitch. It's not there. His legs are gone. I still don't think I believe it now, to the point where I still accept him to have 1 more year, be in the background and play a bit. But yeah, I went for a 3.
Yeah, I think what you said there at the end about it would take a 3 for you to give up on him, I think that's fair. Yeah, I think none of us are sitting here thinking, I wish he signed another couple of years with Spurs from watching this year, which is a shame. Right then.
What does he even out?
Belgian. What does he even out?
4. I don't know.
4.
2,
4
6,
and a half.
3. Oh yeah, 4.5. Good effort.
Right, it's Belgian
So what
I've
also done, boys, I'm working on average as we go along. So I'm adding our scores up and averaging it out. So we'll get a team average at the end.
Nice, I love that, Oz. Toby then. I'd give Toby a 7. I think, unlike Jan, we look a better team with him in than we do out. And I think he should still play ahead of Sanchez and Dyer every day of the week. Whereas he's not too dissimilar in age to Jan, I don't feel like his legs they've gone as much. And he just seems to still be at it. He's not, don't get me wrong, he's not as good as he was 2 years ago. But I think he's just been solid. And you just feel comfortable when he plays. So yeah, I'll give him a 7. I thought he was another solid year for him.
Again, exactly the same to me, gone for a 7. I think very much echoing what Pete said there. I think he was sort of had that weird falling out with Pochettino towards the end of Poch's time, really, I think. I don't really know what happened there. And Mourinho came in and reinstated him straight away, and he proved why he should have been in the team in the first place. I think him and Dyer will more than likely be our first choice in next season, going off of what we've seen so far, which I think is a solid enough back two. No, centre back two. But yeah, 7 again, solid season for Toby. Done nothing to really excel. He scored that goal against Arsenal, which was nice. It won us the point. So, but yeah, 7 for me.
Cheers.
I mean, I actually wanted to give him an 8. I wanted to give him an 8 because he's so much better than all the defenders around him. And also, I was thinking how much of the season has he spent next to a Serge that just leaves him, with a Sanchez often next to him making mistakes, trying to teach Dyer when he's playing. I think it's not been easy for Toby. And I think a lot of fans underestimate how hard it's been for him in that back line when he's been used to having Jan next to him, really sharing and carrying the burden with him, and then suddenly he lost his partner of however many years that they've just been perfectly working with each other. Had to react, got played left centre half a fair few times, but
yeah,
I did give him a 7 because I thought it was quite difficult to give anyone in the back line anything other than that because of how many goals we've conceded. But I think it's quite hard to give anyone particularly hard rating, and because he's so good and we rate him so highly. So yeah, I'll for a 7 as well. So we're all in for that one.
Lovely. That's an easy one to work out, Ols. Eric.
7.
Eric Dyer. I've got a lot of these, to be honest, and it just shows, I think it demonstrates the average season that we've had. I give him a 6. I don't really remember much of him before lockdown. I actually think he's been solid since we come back. I think he's had a few. I blame him massively for the Sheffield United game. He looked way out of position. Didn't really know what it looked like. He knew what he was doing. He obviously gave away the pen against United. But actually, the games he played, I thought he was solid. I thought he was really good against United to give away the penalty. I just think he's been a kind of, his downfall has been he has no set position. It now seems like he has that. So he can, because he'll be going into training, I don't know if I'm going to play centre half in a free like he did under Poch a few times, or if I'm going to play and sit in front of the back four. I don't know what I'm doing. So now he should have a set idea in his head, and hopefully he'll come good. Because he's got all the bits there. He's a smart footballer. I really like listening to him talk after the Palace game where he said about we got into the Europa League and he called it the minimum of minimums, which I like how high you're setting your standards. He's good in the air. He can use both feet. He's not slow. So hopefully he'll kick on next year. And like you say, play next to Toby. But what better player to play next to learn your trade? And then you've got Ledley King, who's obviously now going to be on the coaching staff, which would be, hopefully he can kind of pass the knowledge on. But yeah, another 6, another average season. Didn't really stand out, do a lot, but was solid enough.
Yeah. So pre-lockdown, pre-Mourinho, we're talking 4 or 5 for him because he was diabolical. I remember seeing a couple of games he was playing CDM and he was just awful.
Oh yeah,
just wasn't even in the team. Wasn't even in the team. He wasn't even playing. Wasn't even close to starting 11. And then when Poch left, obviously he got put in straight into DM and wasn't very good there still. And then he's been chucked in the centre back. I think it was the last 2 or 3 games before lockdown. I think this is the Wolves game. We went to Jez, wasn't it? And we were like, where's Dyer playing? He's centre back, and he actually looked quite good. And since then, he's done really well. So I would give him like a 5 before lockdown, and then a 7 post lockdown. So we'll give him a 6 overall, shall we?
Jez, where are you going?
I gave him a 5. I gave him a 5 because I think pre-lockdown, every time I saw him in the team, I didn't want him to be there. So I was disappointed to see him in the starting 11 every time. It concerned me. And like Ollie said, especially when he was playing holding midfield, just doesn't have the confidence on the ball. He's one of those players who picks it up and needs to take 3 or 4 touches before they know what pass they're going to play, because they're not. And he's not brave in going to get the ball. He didn't want to pick it up off defenders. He was one of those I call them cowardly centre mids, when they move out to the right back position or move out to left back position to pick up the ball, because it gives them so much room, and then they know they're safe as houses and they can turn and play. And that's what I watched a lot with Dyer. Coming to centre back, I do think he could grow there. We just give him a 5-year contract. So I think I saw someone say on YouTube there, that's a warranty on a fridge. So a bit of trust in it to keep him around. And I do think he'll do well there with like the all inputs you just said. All those variables can help him go a long way. But I went for a 5. I didn't really trust him for a long, long time until maybe the last few games he's played. If I actually thought he's looked quite decent. Maybe it's a little bit hard. Yeah, I'm for a 5.
It's always hard these ratings because the latest games are the most fresh in our memories, aren't we? Like I said, we've forgotten all of the. Not only has it been in the 12-month season, it's also been very up and down season. So it's hard.
Yeah, like you said, I'd completely forgotten about how bad he was centre mid sitting in front of the back four until you mentioned it, and then I remember just the amount of times he gives ball away. Sanchez. Oh, Sanchez. I am not as nervous when he played this year than I was last year. Last year, I used to have a heart attack a lot of the time when he played, and I didn't feel like that this year. I've given him a 6. I think his pace gets us out of trouble a lot, which is nice. And like you said, Jez, you'd have thought Mourinho would like him, where you go, you don't have to be good on the ball, just be a good defender, just be smart and win me ball and then play it to someone who's better than you. I'd just give a 6, another solid-ish 6. Maybe could have gone. I don't know if I would have. If I'm thinking of him like I thought of Aurier, he's not that bad, but I go, it's a 6 for Sanchez or a 7 for Sanchez. I actually thought he's been all right a couple of times. One that stood out for me was United when he got back at Rashford, which was ridiculous, and that pace will be lacking over the coming season with Toby and Dyer, so he will be useful. But yeah, I've had less heart attacks. I think he's been all right. Another one where I'm just, just shrug your shoulders. Yeah, he's all right.
Yeah, I put down 5 for Sanchez because I thought it was right in the middle, really. There wasn't, and like I say, he had some great moments, and you're probably spot on we talk about that Rashford challenge. Last year, he probably gets back, but then gives away a penalty. So this year, he got back and got the ball, so fair play. And he's still 23, 24, I think. He's young. So in terms of centre-back, he's still got time to develop. And, I think, Toby's 30, Dyer's 26, I think. So he's still got a couple of years in that. So he's got time. I think he will be good. And like I say, you're right, pace-wise, it's very obvious that the way Jose manages it, he sets us up to counter other teams. So teams with pace, you're going to see Sanchez. Teams without pace, you're going to see Alderweireld, I would imagine. And then Dyer's always going to be there. So I think 5 fair. Yeah, it's all right.
Jez?
I gave him a 6. I actually nearly leaned towards a 7. I thought possibly his best year with us, but I gave him a 6. I thought it was a bit of a slap in the face to him when Dyer came in for the last game of the season, considering that him and Toby just picked up a seat or 2. So I was really surprised that happened. I thought that was very harsh. And I wonder what's going through his head, actually, because if I'm him, I'm thinking, right, I've been time for this club. I've got Jan and Toby to learn from. They're both older, though, and I'm the third centre-back. When one of them comes into their tenure, then I'm going to step in, and that's going to be my position. And now someone's been moulded from centre-mid to be the centre-back that will seemingly be in front of him in the side. So I do wonder what's going through his head, whether he's concerned about that. Maybe he's not, but might be something that rolls on with him. But yeah, I thought he had a pretty good year. And I do think that I'm, again, surprised that Mourinho doesn't love him, because I thought he'd be perfect for him. Absolutely spot on, that kind of centre-back that he likes. But yeah, I think he's had an okay year, as decent as centre-back can do, I think, in this sort of period.
Cool. Right, last centre-half then. We didn't see a lot of him, but young Japhet Tanganga. I feel like I might have gone high here, but I just
I've definitely gone high here.
Yeah, I just think when he played, he looked good, and he was at a time before he got injured, he was one real positive that was coming out of a real awful season. But then I also think you're marking him on the games that he played, and the games that he played, he was very, very good. And against Liverpool, he bossed Mane for 90 minutes. The other games, I remember him clearing one off the line against Southampton, which was ridiculous. I remember, I think in the FA Cup, when we were looking like we were struggling for a bit, he just picked it up on the edge of our box and just went on a ridiculous run that got us back into the top corner. So I give him an 8 on the basis of he played really well whenever he played. He was one real positive, and he's massive for the future. Just signed a new deal. He's another one where you think like Jose should love him in the Sanchez mould. He's quick, he's strong, wins ball. He steps out really well as well, which I haven't seen, which Jan used to be wicked at actually until this year. He steps out and gets in front of players and nicks the ball and gets us going, which is really good. And maybe an 8's high. Like, you can't say it because it's not been consistent across the whole year. Because obviously he's not played as much. But yeah, I've gone 8. Ols?
I've gone for a 7 for Jaff. I thought very much the same as you. I thought he was outstanding in the time that he played. From going from not, we'd obviously seen a lot from pre-season. I remember watching pre-season and thinking he looks a player. And I think there's a clip of Mourinho saying about this man, Mark Ronaldo, keep an eye on him. If I remember rightly, from like his first training session or something. And then he got chucked in against Liverpool and did really, really well. So the expectation was set high and we were quite surprised. I thought, oh, where's this come from? And like I said, Pete, it was a proper bright note and what was going to be a very bleak season. So I gave him a 7. I think future-wise, we've got everything. I had a bit of a strange couple of days ago, just watching videos about Ledley King and listening to all the podcasts and stuff. And he talks very highly of him. And he sees, a big future for him. I mean, he's got everything. He's got absolutely everything you possibly want in a centre-back. A particular modern-day centre-back. I think he's only 6'4". He's tallest, but he can jump. He's strong. He's quick. And I'm very surprised we've not seen a reverse from the normal formation of putting him right back and maybe like a Seth left back or something like that. Which I think would probably be better potentially, or even be Davis left back, and letting him go on rather than Ori all the time. But we'll see. But next season, I think it will be a big season for him.
It'd be interesting to see how much he would have played after lockdown had he not got injured.
Yeah.
Jez, what have you gone for?
I'm for a 7 as well. And like I say, we've all gone fairly high. He's not played as much as he might have, but he has, as you both said, been something exciting in a season that hasn't been particularly good at all. Well, it's been a horrible year for us, for all manner of reasons. But Jaffet actually looks a proper player. And talking about Ledley King, he does remind me a little bit. I don't want to go too crazy and give him and kill a player before they even start, which can happen so much, especially in England. But I really rate him, and I really hope he gets a lot of football next season because I think he can become real good. He's not even just his physicality as well. He's also really calm, and he seems quite intelligent. He knows when to go, drop onto the line. He just seems smart. Knows when to step out. He's a high intelligent player. So I'm really looking forward to seeing more of him. So I went for a 7.
Cool. How are we looking for time, Jez? I'm just conscious. Sorry, I was just going to say, how are we looking for time?
I was going to say, shall we just do the defence for today and then move on to the other departments, other positions of another pod? So we can do the midfield and stuff like that, but work quite well. So we can finish off talking about Seth, maybe Kyle Walker-Peters, and that'll probably sum up the defence.
Yeah.
Spot on. I'm happy to do that. Where do you want to start then, out of those players?
Let's go Seth. So I know we weren't going to talk too much about Seth, John, but I did give him a 5. I thought potentially we had this phenomenal player coming in. And I appreciate he's 7. He was at 18 when we signed him, so he's young. But I hoped he'd have more of an impact than he did. I know Mourinho says he kind of sees him as this sort of left midfielder who's going to be a left back one day. But how do you learn to be a left back? You play at left back. You don't play in left wing. I've not seen him play left back, so we don't know. I appreciate obviously Mourinho sees him training and stuff, and he's got the attributes to be a great left back, but we just don't know. So in a left back, again, I give him stuck in with a 5. So I think his injuries didn't help. He came injured. He picked up various injuries, and you question whether playing Premier League football, Championship football, when you're 16, 17, 18 is good for you. To then get injuries later on, we'll see. And stuff. He got horrible injuries, didn't he? And he was one of those players that was huge as a youngster.
Yeah, I mean, I went similar. I went 5 as well, but just because we haven't seen him since Mourinho's come in, we literally haven't seen him. But when I seem to remember, and you might tell me I'm wrong here, but I remember him playing a few times. Start of the season, Bayern Munich away, particularly. I remember him playing. He scored. Did he score?
Outstanding. Yeah.
And I just thought he looked real smart. His decision making was real good. I thought he's got good attributes, like you said. He's quick. Got a good left foot. I just think he's been a bit hard done by. I think for some reason Mourinho's come in and picked 3 or 4 and just gone, I don't see you. I don't like you as a player. I don't know what it is. If it's like he seems to have done it with him, with Tanguy, with Parrott, he's decided you're not ready. I just think he's been a bit hard done by. I think he should have got more game time than he did, especially if you're talking about playing him high left and how poor Son had been for a big chunk of the season under Mourinho. He should have got more game time there for sure, I think. But I went 5 for Cesc, just because we ain't seen nothing of him. Yes,
I gave him 5 as well. / not applicable. I think it's really hard done by because Mourinho's pretty much said you can't play left back yet. He's not ready. But then he refuses to bring him on left wing. So what do you see him as? You obviously see him as left mid, which means that you don't see him in the side. So it's kind of impossible for him. A wing back role maybe is how Mourinho sees him a bit. And like Ollie said, that's what Serge is operating as. So maybe swap the idea. But I think it's been really harsh for Cesc. All we can give him is a 5, and you probably give him lower because he ain't played that much, but that's not his fault. So more a thing on Mourinho.
Do we want to do quickly Danny Rose as well?
Yeah. Oh, Rose. I've not rated Rose.
Don't rate him.
I think that's fair enough.
I don't rate him at all.
I put him down as
probably
4.
A 5.
I think
or 4.
Yeah. I think he's similar, Jez, to what you were saying with Jan. Like when you found out he was going out on loan to Newcastle, I wasn't thinking, oh no. We were like, I'd be gutted about that because he's just not been the same player for quite a long time.
Yeah.
I went 4. I just chucked him out there. We don't have to talk about it if you don't want to.
I was about Kyle Walker-Peters. I think he's the hardest one potentially to do for us as well. I think he's a very interesting prospect.
He's interesting.
When we're trying to buy a right back, do we need to buy a right back, or what's the situation with him? I don't know.
We're pretty much out of time though, boys. We've got less than a minute.
All right.
Let me just quickly chuck it in there quickly. Let me quickly chuck it in. What's interesting about Kyle Walker-Peters is the Southampton manager has already said we're not sure if he's what we're going to sign as our right back. So even though he's played there all season or since January for him, he's not even convinced on him. So that's interesting. So midfielders, wingers, centre forward next time out.
Do that for the next one.
Definitely, boys. Definitely. I'd just like to recap this one, finish centre backs, and we'll go through our joint ratings. So Lloris, we gave the joint rating of 7, which is pretty agreeable. Gazaniga was a 6. Aurier came out with a 5.6. Hobie came out with a 7. Dyer was 5.6. Sanchez 5.6. Jan 5. Davey 7. Steph got 5. And our top-rated defender of the season was Japhet Tanganga with a 7.3.
Ridiculous.
Oh, Japhet.
Well done, boy.
Well,
all right.
We were very entertained by Japhet, that is why.
Yeah. Absolutely. Right, we'll leave
all right,
it.
then, boys. We'll see you next time.
Good work.
Bye-bye.
See you next time.
Catch you later.